Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste and a very warm welcome to yet another session in our Weekend with Wisdom series. And in this series, we are going to be delving into a topic, Eternal Wisdom, a Manual to Life. And to guide us through the topic, we have with us Vinayji. Namaskar, Vinayji. Thank you so much for joining us. Let us begin this session with an invocation. Sahana bhavatu sahanau bhunattu saha veeryam karavavahai tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. I would like to take a moment and introduce Vinayji to the audience. Vinayji is an established thinker, philosopher, and self-management expert. He has immersed himself in study, research, and practice of Vedanta since the age of 16. Over the past 30 years, he has inspired people, both in India and abroad, to commit to higher ideals and transform themselves to lead a more purposeful and fulfilling life. His in-depth understanding, inspiring oration, and lucid explanation translates complex Vedic knowledge into valuable lessons in applied philosophy. His appeal lies in the presentation of these truths with absolute precision, effortless ease, and consummate wit. He founded Wisdom Foundation, dedicated to spreading the glorious truths of Sanatana Dharma, the eternal principles of life and living. His tireless work expresses through wisdom, public lectures, study classes, workshops, corporate seminars, educational modules, youth interactions, and retreats. Vinayji's programs continue to enrich and impact people to be happy personally and successful professionally. With that introduction, we would like to invite Vinayji to take over the session. And over to you, Vinayji. Thank you so much. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Namaskaram to everyone. Indeed, delighted to be able to connect with you all at the Weekend with Wisdom. Invoke divine blessings to all of you. Would sail you all through the topic Eternal Wisdom, a Manual to Life, through the 4 sessions, today 2 and tomorrow 2,
And in particular, this presentation would talk to you about the applied philosophy or the applied wisdom, rather than talking about the pure philosophy or the pure wisdom. What really helps us to deal with life and its life's challenges is the applied philosophy or the applied wisdom. Now, firstly, why do we call it as wisdom? To particularly differentiate the word wisdom from mere knowledge or mere information. The word wisdom is known as vijnanam. Knowledge is known as jnanam. Jnanam and vijnanam are completely different facets. Jnanam, in fact, is mere theoretical information which you can get from teachers, textbooks, from schools and universities, from gurus. But vijnanam is something which you can't get it from any guru. It is something which is created out of your own sadhana. It is a result of your extraction of wisdom from the teachers and textbooks. It's the capacity that you can live this knowledge in your day-to-day life. It is a knowledge which has a practical application. In fact, has a meaning to your life. In fact, if you have knowledge, you merely know it. But if you have wisdom, you truly live it. So the accent of the Shastras, of gurus, is to not merely inform you, but truly to transform you. And what methodology I would adopt through the course of this teaching, I should justify it so that you understand and you can relate to the process. The unique methodology I always adopt through the teaching is to have a dialogue with my students, is to have an interaction. In fact, the very word education is drawn from the two Latin terms, edu and cate. Educate is to draw out knowledge. So when you draw out knowledge, it has immense benefits vis-a-vis when I were to push it in. If you were to see, when you draw out knowledge, drawing out knowledge is when you actually have a dialogue between a teacher and a taught. When there is a dialogue, you have time to pause, examine, reflect on the ideas. In fact, the fundamental quality of a student is in the Gita, the mantra which says, the verse which says, prashnena. You must question the teacher. You question the teacher with an attitude of pranipatena, with devotion. And when you have a dialogue with a guru, when you question the teacher, that process internalizes the knowledge because you're fundamentally thinking. And this develops the clarity of thought, and the clarity of thought you have expresses as the buddhi or the intellect, which is the product of wisdom, which is the wisdom. So if I don't adopt this process of having a dialogue, on the contrary, if I just have a monologue with you, if I just were to keep lecturing, if I keep just pushing in the knowledge to you, you as a recipient of this knowledge would just merely receive the information. You just cram yourself with information. You don't process it, you don't think, you don't examine it, because you don't have an opportunity to rationalize the knowledge. You don't question the teachings. So you become an information bureau. You will have heard a lot, you will learn a lot, but you just end up merely parroting. You just become intelligent in any scriptural textbook. And that is not what we intend when we associate ourselves with scriptural study. You just don't want to be informed, rather, you want to be transformed. So, this humble attempt is to draw out the wisdom in you, is to kindle that wisdom in you. And that is through a process of having a dialogue. And this is when I were to question you, if I were to interact with you, just to ask you what's your thought, what's your opinion. It is not to gauge your knowledge, it's not to challenge you, it is merely to draw it out of you. And I believe, it's my firm conviction, my firm belief, that if you adopt this process and methodology, not only it would enrich you, it actually would also empower you to guide your lives with this wisdom. So I found it a need to justify the approach I would take is to have an interaction. So I would love if you all who are coming for the first time, who are here, if you are in a position to switch on your video so I can see you and I can interact with you, it would be lovely. Right. Now, let me justify that the topic, which is eternal wisdom. Now, maybe if I could give you all an idea as to what are the various subject matter I would deal with for the rest of the 4 sessions. It would be my effort to sail you all through the 4 sessions broadly. You would see in the session 1, I talk about the various laws of life, what is the nature of the world. Later in the day, when we have the session 2, I would touch upon what is that human nature and how to discover the true happiness within. The 3rd session tomorrow, I would talk prosperity with peace, how to be able to inject both these essential elements into action, and the beautiful concept of glory of renunciation. And the concluding session, I would talk about the blueprint to inspired action. So this gives you a panoramic idea as to what we would cover in the 4 sessions that we have. Now, the topic eternal wisdom, the very word eternal. Now, what does the word eternal mean? Eternal means something which is ageless, something which has actually never died in time. In fact, eternal means something which had a relevance then, it has a relevance today to your lives, something which has a relevance at any time in the future. In fact, I would say this knowledge or this wisdom has far greater relevance to our lives today than perhaps never before. And that's how I would like to look at it. And here is this wisdom. It doesn't belong to anybody in particular. Nobody can claim it. It is a wisdom which is universal. It belongs to one and all. Nobody can claim it. Now, eternal also means it is applicable to all walks of life. It exists in all periods of time. It's applicable to all walks of life. You could be a professional, you could be a corporate person, you could be an entrepreneur, you could be a celebrity, whatever be the walk of life, you could be a student. Each individual faces various challenges, and it has a solution for all types of problems perhaps you may have in your life. You may want to manage your health, you may have issues managing wealth, you may have issues managing your stress, you may have relationship issues, you may have mental issues, psychological issues, whatever be you have, here is a wisdom that has a relevance to your situation and context wherever you are. And if you look at history, if you look at life, it has been time and again proven that men of power had always sought men of wisdom. If you look into history, you would find that kings and royalty would go up to these men of wisdom and approached them with due orthodoxy. They always approached men of wisdom. They never summoned men of wisdom to their palaces. They went to their ashrams to seek their blessings. It just tells that if you weigh power and money and gold on one side with wisdom, wisdom would any day outweigh the men of power. So the word eternal means something which is ageless. Now, what in simplest of terms, what is this wisdom? Wisdom is nothing but a mere manual, an instruction manual, I would say a mere handbook to life and living. It is just a handbook where you can fall back on. It gives you the various instructions. In fact, any gadget you buy, any skill you want to learn, first thing that you come across is it gives you a manual, isn't it? You want to learn driving, you want to learn sewing, you want to learn painting, you want to learn cycling, you want to learn flying an aircraft, anything that you want to, any skill you want to learn, you want to play an instrument, you want to play a sport, it comes with various know-hows. It comes with a manual. All what these great men have said, and to logically think, life also comes with a manual. Now the question is, when would you pick up a manual? Ideally, you would pick up a manual before you enter, before you start using that gadget, before you learn that skill, isn't it? So the biggest mistake we have done, humanity has done, is we have not heeded, we have not picked up this manual. In fact, we are learning about life and living, having lived the life the way we want, and then we are learning how to live about life and living. Many, in fact, have not realized that living also is a skill. Living also is like any other art. You need to essentially learn it, you need to practice it, you need to perfect it. And if you don't understand this simple approach to life, that it is also a skilled work. Like I said, you need to learn how to fly an aircraft. You need to learn how to play an instrument. You want to perfect that art of carpentry. You must learn it. You must learn it. You must practice it, and you must perfect it. So also one has to go through with life. And in fact, we are struggling, or perhaps some of the people out there have lost that game of life because they have not learned this art of playing the game of life. We have not learned it. So the eternal wisdom, eternal is something which existed from a long period of time, and it has relevance to your life today. It has solutions to whatever problems or hiccups or pinpricks of life you face. And this eternal wisdom gives you a manual, it gives you a know-how, how you can deal with whatever life that and its challenges it throws at you. Now, the first session on the chapter, The Laws of Life, I've explained what the wisdom manual is. I would touch upon what are the various laws, the external and the internal laws that constitute the world and individual. There is a dip in the standard of life. The quality of life is deteriorating while the standard of life is increasing. And then I will touch upon the concept of ensure your peace of mind. Now, moving on, if you look at life, everything is governed so beautifully, everything is so systematized, everything is so systematic. If you look at the world, everything in the world, there's a branch of knowledge that deals with the various laws that govern it. So a branch of knowledge which deals with the world is known as science. Science deals with the laws which govern the world and the various laws which govern the world. The laws which govern the world, I would call them as internal laws. I would call the laws which govern the world, I would call them as external laws. Now, there you go. You see a list of all the external laws. So if you look at the world, there are the various physical laws, there were chemical laws, biological laws, geographical laws, physiological, mechanical, so on and so forth. The various laws which govern the world are external laws. Now, at the same time, there are various laws which govern an individual. An individual is governed by the various internal laws. I would say the laws of destiny, the law of karma, the law of causation, the various psychological laws, intellectual laws, the famous law of Vedanta, which says the laws of deserving and desiring, the laws which govern your actions, which is the law of conscience, the law which governs your birth, the law which governs your death. Now, when I say the laws are facts. They are not my opinions. So these laws are facts of life and not opinions. And as I've said, science deals with the external laws which govern the world. Wisdom deals with the internal laws which govern the individual. I hope you all are with me. Now, when one does not know these laws, as I've said, we have not learned this wisdom. We have not picked up this manual. We have not learned these instructions in life. As a result of which we are ignorance of the law, and ignorance of the law is no excuse. And what happens when you are ignorant? There's a saying, you are punished by the law itself. The law itself punishes you. You're not punished for breaking the law. There's a difference in being punished by the law vis-a-vis for breaking the law. There's a world of difference between the two. For example, if I were to go and touch a hot pan, the law of fire would instantly burn my finger. The law itself punishes me. I did not know that there was a hot pan. It was just taken off the stove. But I'm punished. My fingers get burnt immediately. So one would be punished by the law itself. So therefore, it becomes paramount that you know these laws which govern our lives so that we are able to relate ourselves and live a life. As the saying goes, ignorance is bliss. Everybody is blissfully unaware. Now I would ask you, to have a disease, if I can ask Balasubramanian sir. So let's say if I have a disease. Disease itself is bad, isn't it?
Yeah. But it happens. I mean, disease is a part of the life. It's a
disease is part of life. But
yeah,
you try to be as healthy as possible.
Yeah.
To have a disease is bad. But if I ask you to have a disease and not to know that you have a disease, that's fatal, isn't it?
That is fatal. Yeah. Although it's ignorance is bliss, but this is not bliss for you.
It is not bliss. So to have a disease, and if you know the disease and if you know the cause of disease and cure it, then there's no problem. So the ignorance is bliss is to have a disease and not to know have a disease is fatal. So we do not know, humanity is not aware of the cause of their suffering. We are not able to find out what is the cause. The cause is ignorance. And you are blissfully unaware. Isn't it, sir? So if I say, is it disease or ignorance of disease? I would say ignorance of disease is worse than having a disease itself. Isn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
But once you have a disease, there is a solution. You get the knowledge or the wisdom to deal with it, or the medicine gives you a solution to the disease. Now, what is the way you find out whether am I equipped with this wisdom or not? Have I got this wisdom? If you look at life, humanity is paying a very hefty price of this ignorance. If you look at life, there's a glaring disparity between the quality or the standard of life vis-a-vis the quality of life. The standard of living vis-a-vis the quality of life. If you look at life, you find that the standard of living is constantly increasing, isn't it? The standard of living is rising, but the quality of life is deteriorating. And this is happening at an alarming rate. In fact, we come to see it seems to be inversely proportional. As the standard of living is increasing, the quality of life is dipping. Because everybody is caught up in the trap of making a living. Nobody is designing their life. So somebody said, don't be caught up in the trap of making a living. Be interested rather in designing your life, in constructing your life, in making your life better, making yourself a better person. Now, what is a testimony to the fact that the quality of life is deteriorating? If you look around, there's conflict in every home, in every field, there's conflict. You go to your work atmosphere, there's conflict, there is disharmony. Today, perhaps there's a greater disharmony in the name of religion. There is hatred, there is disharmony, there is stress. Stress is such a common thing. There is disease, there's ill health, there is misery. You come to hear of people going through divorce and disturbed relationships. Depression is the new disease that is haunting mankind. There's vandalism, there's terrorism, there's suicide. The list goes on. So everybody is caught up in just trying to make a living, but at the cost of the quality of life deteriorating. So this perhaps is an acid test to find out how much of wisdom is there in me. And the price we are paying for not acquiring this wisdom is that the quality of life is deteriorating. We have insured everything else in our lives, everything that we have insured. You insure your home, you insure your factories, you insure your car, you pay a very premium price to insure your health. But the question is, have I insured my peace of mind? Have I insured myself with all the eventualities or all that life puts me through. Most people are unaware. They don't have an idea. The famous words of Sant Kabir. Sant Kabir says, I sing that doha, says, Dukh mein sumiran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koi. Jo sukh mein sumiran kare, dukh kahe ko hoye kabira, dukh kahe ko hoye. So Kabir ji says, dukh mein sumiran sab kare. Everybody thinks of seeking this wisdom, seeking higher values in dukkha. Fundamentally, they ask question, why me? Why am I going through this phase of life? You complain. Sukh mein kare na koi. When things are going your way, nobody seems to seek this higher wisdom. Nobody seeks to seek a higher blessing. Jab jo sukh mein sumiran kare, one who invests his time in sukha, in the moments of joy, dukh kahe ko hoye. Where is sorrow for such a person? So what the message is one should seek this wisdom in the acme of your life, in the best moments of your life. You must seek wisdom. If you are seeking it while you are in distress, it's too late. So if I were to ask this question, is wisdom important or essential? It's like asking a stupid question. Is oxygen important or essential? So what are you asking? Oxygen is not the question of important. Oxygen is essential. I cannot live without oxygen even for a moment. Even for a moment, I am without oxygen. I'm deprived of. I can't live. I cease to exist. Now I would say this wisdom is as essential. It's not just important. So you must learn to ensure that you have insured yourself, you have protected yourself from what the world has put you through. In fact, the famous words of the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says in the second chapter, the 56th mantra, in the portion Sthita Prajna, he says, Dukkeshva anudvignamana sukheshu vigata spruhaha vita raga bhaya krodha sthitadi muniruchyate. Whose wisdom is established? One who is not excited by dukkha, who is not dejected by sorrow. So who is not one who goes through the fluctuations of joy and sorrow. Such a person, he says, his wisdom is established. Now, just to bring you back to the thought, I started by saying eternal wisdom. Eternal is something which existed in all periods of time. It is relevant today. It deals with all, from people from all walks of life. It has a solution to all your problems. Wisdom is a manual. Everything in life you pick up comes with a manual. You buy a car, it comes with a manual. You buy a timepiece, comes with a manual. You want to operate any gadget, comes with a manual. You want to learn a skill, it comes with a manual. And I said the most valuable thing in your life is your very life itself. And I'm certain it also comes with a manual. And the manual which deals with your life and living is the wisdom. So the eternal wisdom is nothing but a manual to your life. And then I said there are laws which govern the world, the external laws, and there are laws which govern the individual. Science is a branch of knowledge which deals with the laws which govern the world. Wisdom is a branch of knowledge which deals with the laws which govern an individual. And sadly, humanity is unaware of the laws which govern the world, and the moment you are ignorant of a law, you're punished by the very law itself. Like I took an example. If I touch a hot pan, it's the very fire, the hot pan burns me. I'm not punished by somebody for touching a hot pan. The law itself punishes you. So the ignorance of the law is no excuse. You must learn these fundamental principles, the fundamental laws which govern a human life, so that you have the know-how of life and living, and you're able to deal with the vicissitudes and the challenges life puts you through. And if you are not equipped with this knowledge, the price you pay is the quality of your life deteriorates. On one side, the standard of your living may be going. Your capacity to buy what money can buy. You have a beautiful capacity. You can give yourself all the comforts what money can buy you, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have peace of mind. That doesn't necessarily mean you have that happiness and contentment. And then I said, you need to ensure yourself, you need to protect yourself from what the world puts you through. The world subjects you through the various extremities. And then I quoted the second chapter of the Gita, where he says, a man of steady wisdom is one who is not affected either by joy or affected either by sorrow. At some stage, at some point in our lives, all of us tend to buckle. All of us tend to give in to either little joy or its sorrow. So what we need to go through is what is known as preventive maintenance. You should go through, it's like every day, don't we all exercise? We all, whether you like it or not, whether you are healthy or not healthy, you are told to exercise. You exercise so that you don't fall sick. Or if you fall sick, you have enough immunity and strength to bounce back. Just like, don't you keep your vehicle in good repair, ensure it goes through regular checkup and maintenance so that it doesn't have a breakdown. So there's something called as a preventive maintenance vis-a-vis a breakdown maintenance. When a vehicle breaks down, you will have to go through the maintenance. You'll have to get it repaired, but it's too late. So wisdom is to give you that vantage point where you are well equipped to deal with any challenge much before it happens. In fact, you are able to absorb life and what it puts you through far better than others. In fact, others notice and say, hey, you are able to handle that situation, or you handled that situation very well. How is it? Because you have had this wisdom ingrained in you. So I've covered briefly on the first aspect, which talked about the laws of life. I spoke about the external, internal laws. I spoke about the standard of life vis-a-vis the standard of living. And I touched about that there is a need that you need to ensure yourself to protect from what the world puts you through. Now, before I go further, is there anything that you all wish to ask? I think, did I see Ashish raising his hand? Would you like to say something, please? All right. So what I would lead you all further is, what is the nature of the world? Now, under this section, I would cover, where does the joy and sorrow reside? The topic, relationship with the world, assessment is the key, and does the world bring out the best in you? So, firstly, where does joy and sorrow reside? Through the course of your experiences, all of us are subjected to joy or sorrow. None of us are exempt from the experience of either joy or sorrow. There are moments of joy, there are moments of sorrow. But many people firmly believe or attribute their joy or sorrow to external factors. They believe joy and sorrow is an attribute of the external object of being. I'm happy because of certain situations or circumstances. Or they believe they are in distress, they are going through grief, they are going through moments of sorrow because of external factors. You may say it could be because of the pandemic or because of lack of social life. You may blame it to the job situation, either be it a blessing or a curse. You may say it's because of a relationship, or it's your finances, or it could be your emotional connect, or you may say it's a workload, or it's the traffic, it's the weather, it's the policies of the government. You may attribute it something external. But the fundamental thing this wisdom teaches us is, nothing in the external world can contribute to either your joy or sorrow. In fact, nothing in the external world can disturb you except yourself. So joy and sorrow is not an attribute of objects of being of the external world. Joy and sorrow is a state of your own mind. It is an internal phenomenon. The world is neutral. Every object in being is neutral. Now let me ask simple question to Aparagaru. I just want to establish with your little interaction comments, sir. I'm trying to say that the world is neutral. Sir, let's say if I give you a cigar, would you enjoy it, sir?
No, Guruji.
You wouldn't enjoy it. But let's say a person who loves smoking, and if I were to, am I not wrong if I were to say that Cuban cigarettes are one of the best cigarettes in the world? Cuba?
That's what they say.
That's what they say. So what my little knowledge of cigar, if I were to say someone who enjoys those select Cuban cigarettes or cigars, he would relish, enjoy it, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, you and I in the same category, we would detest smoke. There's another person enjoys smoking, the same cigar.
Yes, Guruji.
So can we say it is the cigar that is giving me displeasure, or can we say cigar is that which gave joy to that person?
No, it is not the cigar, actually.
It is not the cigar.
If it is the cigar, it would give joy to everyone.
Correct. If the joy was the inherent nature of the object, it should give happiness to everybody who comes in contact with it, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Now, let me take another example. If we take example of food, if I ask you what kind of food you like, sir?
I like sweets, Guruji.
Okay, I know you like sweets. But let's say There's someone who doesn't like sweets. Sweet being the same, he would not enjoy it. Someone who looks forward to have sweets, another person hates sweets. In fact, he says, I want anything spicy. Right?
Yes.
The food being the same is palatable to one, is unpalatable to the other. Now, what we have established is I've taken two examples of a cigarette and I've taken food to tell it is not the object that gives you joy or sorrow. It is in the state of your mind. Right?
Understood.
Thank you, sir. Now, if I were to take example of music, what kind of music you like? If you ask me, I would enjoy anything soft. I love reveling in Carnatic music. I love listening soft instrumental music. But there's somebody else who only enjoys rock music, hard music, loud music. Now, I can't say it is the music that gives me joy. So the music is neutral. It gives comfort to one, it gives discomfort to other. The same being in people. You may find joy in certain person's company, another person detests the same company. So is it the person that is giving joy or sorrow? It's not the person. A person wants to marry a lady, another person wants to divorce the same lady. So it's not the lady that's the problem. The problem is it's something other than the person. So the famous words of John Milton. John Milton says, mind, if it is left to itself, mind in its own place can make a hell out of a heaven out of hell. So if you're going through a heavenly experience, if your life is going through bliss, everything is well, it is not because of the circumstances, it's not because of the situations, it's not because of the things, it's not because of the people around you, it's because of your own mind. And it's for some reason you're going through a hell of experience where you believe it's the external world, that things are not going your way, the work is not progressing, or if it's an external factor, he says it's not the external factor, it is your own mind. So it is your mind in its own place can make a hell out of a heaven out of hell. Now just look at your own life today. Are you going through a hell or a heaven? And it's not the external factors, it is your own mind that is creating. It is your own creation. Not to perhaps endorse or to reiterate the same point, the great scientist, thinker, philosopher Emerson says, to different minds, the same world is hell and a heaven. Exactly the same concept is captured. Your mind and my mind are different, but you and I are living in the same world. And one looks at it as a blessing, another looks at it as a curse. So therefore, what we are trying to establish so far is it is not the world. We are trying to analyze the concept. Where does joy and sorrow reside? Now you've got to rationalize with this idea. It is not the world that is contributing to your joy or sorrow. It is something other than the objects. It is other than the situations. It is not external. It is internal. Now, when we say internal, what does it boil down to? Therefore, the next concept that would help you understand and unfold this idea, unfold what this wisdom is giving, is not what you relate to. So every relationship you have with the world, it's not what you're relating to, but how you're relating to with it. Many a time we believe that if I change the object that I'm dealing with, my life will be better. If I change the situation, if I change the circumstance, I'll be peaceful and I'll be happy. No, you should, you could, you should try and see if that helps. But believe me, your mind has its own ways and means. You may change the object, but as long as you don't change your perception to what you're contacting, your life would not change. So it's not what you relate to, but how are you relating to it? So based on your relationship, you can either be in peace or in stress. So what is stress? In simple terms, stress is nothing but mental agitation which is arising due to your wrong relationship with the world. Simple, straightforward point. The stress is an internal phenomenon, and this internal phenomenon is because of my wrong relationship with the world. And it's nothing to do with the world. And I shall guarantee you on that. The wisdom convinces you. Now I'm going to convince you logically, rationally. It is not because of the external factor. It is because of my inability to deal with that external factor. Richard Carlson says stress is nothing more than a socially acceptable form of mental illness. So we all have accepted that stress is an inevitable part of life, and we all therefore have to accept there's something wrong mentally with me. It is my mental illness, and it is not something external. It is my own mental illness. I'm sure you and I would certainly agree with what Richard Carlson says. So stress is a mental accidents, mental agitations because of your wrong relationship with the world. Peace is nothing but having a right relationship with the world. It's like we have accidents. So why do you have accidents? Do you have accidents because of traffic? No, you don't have accidents because of traffic. You get into accidents because of reckless driving or wrong driving or rash driving. In fact, if the traffic is heavy, you become more conscious. You become more alert because there's so much happening around you. So you don't have accidents because of traffic. You have accidents because of not driving safely. So you have mental accidents not because of others' actions, because you don't know how to deal with others. So it's not what you relate to, how you relate to. So the wisdom gives you that know-how, how to deal with whatever the world is presenting. So I'll give you two examples. We have people coming on a bicycle to sharpen your kitchen tools, your knives and your garden ware. They come and sharpen the tools. And they do it right in front of you. In 2 minutes, they'll sharpen the knife and give it you. And if you look at it, they have a grinding stone. They park their bicycle and they pedal it, and the stone rotates, and they just put the knife against it and they sharpen it and give you. In fact, you look at it, the grinding stone is actually a rugged surface, a rough surface. And they use the rough surface to sharpen the knife, don't they? So what he did, he has got that art of contacting that knife so beautifully to a rough surface that it sharpens the knife, isn't it? So it is the blunt surface that has sharpened, it's the rough surface that has sharpened a blunt knife. So you can't blame the rough stone for it. It is my inability to know how to deal with the rough surface. I take another example. You put water to boiling temperature. You put an egg in it and a potato in it. The same boiling water. And when the water boils to its temperature, what the water does to the potato? That hot water has softened the potato. At the same time, the same hot water has hardened the egg. That fragile egg has hardened. That hardened potato has softened. So the water temperature, the water being the same, what effects it has. So the world and circumstances being the same, what impact it has on to you, what circumstances what do to you, tells a lot about your makeup, what kind of a person you are. So if you want to relate with the world well, you must learn to assess the world. Therefore, it is very important, I would say, in fact, it is paramount, that you must learn to assess the situations, people, everyone around you. The assessment is the key. And when you assess the situations and circumstances around you, what you will come to understand is that everything, every being has what is known as a unique nature. A unique nature here means vasana. Everything has a unique vasana. Everything has a unique characteristic. It has got a unique selling proposition. It's got a USP. And it is so true to its nature that it becomes its dharma. So when you look at everything and anything around you, you find everything has a USP. It is unique to its nature. Like whenever I've had the coffee made by Subramaniamji, it has got a beautiful filter coffee. That is the dharma of the coffee of Subramaniam sir. So you want to taste beautiful coffee, his coffee would never go wrong. That is the nature of the coffee made by Subramaniam sir. Correct, sir? It would never be sweet, it would never be sour, it would be perfect. So if you look at nature, if you look at the world, just giving a few examples, the nature of bitter gourd is its bitterness. You wouldn't find a bitter gourd which is sweet. It is bitter. You find that the nature of sugar is its sweetness. The nature of fire is its heat. The nature of cow, it is meek and mild. The nature of a fox is its cunning nature. The nature of a tiger is its ferocity. Don't we all go long distances to appreciate the ferocity of a tiger? You just want to admire the ferocity of a tiger, and you admire the ferocity of a tiger from a distance. You don't dare go near it and put your finger out there and see how ferocious it is. No, you must be stupid to do that. You keep safe distance. And you know that your dog is faithful. Just like things in nature, you look at animals, they're all expressing their nature so helplessly. They are so true to the nature. Humans also are expressing their nature helplessly. So people, you find some people are extremely egoistic. They think too much of themselves. They're extremely arrogant. There are people who are very, very humble and very cooperative. You find so easy getting along with some people, and you find so difficult to get along with some. You can't get along at all. Some people are so faithful as a dog. Some people are as cunning as a fox. Oh my God. You think, oh my God, you can never trust this man. He is going to backstab me anytime. He's so cunning. That is nature. Some people are lazy, so lazy that they can't do anything. Some people are very fast and efficient. Everybody has the nature. So it is important that you assess the nature of the people around you so that you're able to relate with the world. Now, the thought I'm building here, we began by saying, where does the joy and sorrow reside? We gave clear arguments to convince ourselves that the world is neutral. The joy and sorrow doesn't reside in the objects and beings of the world. It is only a state of your mind. So your mind has in itself to make a hell out of a heaven out of hell. So it is in your own mind. So it is not the world, it's how you relate to the world. And if you have to relate to the world and create that inner peace, we said assessment is the key. Now, I want to ask a simple question. What is the opposite of assessment? Now, I'm asking again, as I've said, is not to gauge your understanding, not to measure it, but just to have a dialogue, to have an interaction. Good to see Bina Ma. Are you there, Ma? Bina Ghosh. Anybody has an answer? What is the opposite of assessment? Yes, Hariji. Hariji, just hold on. If I can just hold on. Gurunathji wants to comment something. Yes, sir.
Opposite to assessment is taking it a blind stake. Blind stake. When you are playing cards, sometimes you go for blind stake. Just like opposite to that assessment is like a blind stake. Without assessing anything, we just take as it is, without application of mind. Thank you.
I don't play cards. I don't know what that is. So you say opposite of assessment. Sir, if I'm assessing a person, if I'm assessing a situation, I'm exactly taking what it is, isn't it? Oh, this person is that person is this is the weather, this is the nature. So you are exactly taking what the world is throwing at you, right? So the opposite of that is, yes, Hariji? Go ahead, sir.
Prejudice.
Okay, the opposite of assessment is being prejudiced. Yes, you're right. I have a few answers. They say it is unvalidated. Yes. Blind stake. Yes, as it said. Random. Asha Bajaj Ma says to neglect, to ignore, to be clueless. In fact, taking everything that you all have said, the opposite of assessment is to have expectations. Unvalidated means you have an expectation other than what the other person is throwing at you. So it is important that you should understand what the other person is. So that is my evaluation or assessment of what kind of person you are, vis-a-vis my own expectations. I may have a certain expectation, but when these expectations don't match, then you get in trouble. So who is to be blamed? If I ask Apparao Garu here, who is to be blamed? One who is expressing their nature helplessly, or one who is expecting them to live apart?
Then one who has expectations from others is to be blamed.
Not the one who is expressing their nature helplessly, isn't it?
Yes.
If a person is cunning, that is his nature. If a person is faithful, that is his nature. You call a superior calls his employee and says, I want you to manipulate the accounts. We will do these things. You just get it done and report me. Now, this guy is a very straightforward, honest man of integrity. He doesn't know to do things in a manipulative way. He can't think that way. So he will be in big trouble because he doesn't know, he didn't assess the nature of his staff. He's getting in trouble. So the problem is not the one who's expressing their nature helplessly, but the problem is my expectation. I must learn. So you must understand what is the nature of your boss. You must understand what is the nature of your partner. You must know what is the nature of your manager. You must know what's the nature of the weather you're living in, what's the nature of the government. Every thing around you, you must know what is its nature. Take a clear assessment, take a stock of it. And if you don't do that, you will be in trouble. So if you do not know that nature, and if you don't know how to align yourself, you will have what is known as unreasonable expectations. So your expectations become unreasonable. You will be unrealistic. So unreasonable expectations or unrealistic expectations would invariably land you in a disappointment because you are wrong. And that disappointments lead you to mental agitations. And mental agitations, as I said, is nothing but the stress or strain that you experience in life. So if unreasonable expectations are the root cause of stress, what's the solution? You must rationalize your expectations. You must use your intellect and say, man, what am I expecting that person to be? I must rationalize it, think for God's sake, and see where am I going wrong. And your acceptance must resonate, creating some peace within you and an acceptance that yes, this is what you are. I accept it. If you can change, please bring about a change. But if you can't change, you must learn to accept it. So the saying goes, accept things you cannot change. Have the courage to change things you can. And the wisdom to know the difference. The wisdom is the things you know that you can't change, and the things you know can change, will take time, and I'll give it the time. Sometimes you try to straighten a dog's tail. And the great Ramatirtha says, straightening a dog's tail is like reforming the world. Man. Don't try to reform the world. You can't. You can keep complaining and making as much noise as you can, but that will not happen. No point blaming the world. So you must learn to accept things you can't change. If this is what my husband is, I must accept him for what he is. I can't continue to complain. Why is he like this? Why is he like this? If you think your husband is a mad fellow, accept him. He's a mad. Don't tell him. You accept it and you brand him mentally and say, he's a mad fellow. You'll stop. Don't complain thereafter. Why do you make noise thereafter? Oh, my husband is mad. Husband is mad. No, this is what you think. Keep it. Now, I'm not saying, or the wisdom is not saying that you must passively accept things. As I said, whatever you can change, please change. But when the summer is hot, don't you adapt to the hot summer by wearing light clothes? You adapt. If you ever gone to the desert or experienced a desert climate, in the morning in a desert, it's scorching heat. The same desert, later in the evening or night, it becomes biting cold. Don't you adapt to the extremities in weather? So you must learn to assess the situations, learn to look at people and relate with them so that you create an inner harmony within. So if you do accept this formula and approach, you will not complain if the world is tough. As I've said, as long as your desires and expectations are reasonable, as long as your expectations are realistic, there will be less stress or no stress. But if your expectations and desires are unreasonable, there is bound to be stress. Now, lastly, if you look at life with this perspective, it is not what I am dealing, but how I'm dealing. So instead of blaming the world, if I look at the world as a challenge, if I look at the world as an opposition, and if I have to use the rough world for my own growth, just like that person who sharpens the knife uses the rough stone to sharpen the knife, I will use my ability to relate with the challenging scenario to sharpen my personality. So does the world bring the best in you? It all depends on, do I have the capacity to establish that right contact with it? Am I optimistic enough in life that I will use this challenge as an opportunity for my own development? If I have a demanding situation in my business, I need to use that tough competition in business. I must use the tough competition in business to strive, and I will grow. And I must share my experience yesterday. As you all know, I'm very active in sport. And yesterday I was playing the Masters badminton tournament which happened in Hyderabad yesterday. I played under the age category 45 plus and I lost in the semifinals. The singles open. Singles, I was playing at 45 plus masters and I lost in the semifinal. In fact, if I had won the semifinal match, the finals was today, I'd have to be a walkover because I'll be sitting and talking to you all as I'm doing today. Otherwise, I had to go and play the match. It's a blessing. I'm here today because this was an obligation. However, what I was so happy was the opponent was so tough. It brought the best out of me. And I was so surprised. I was so happy that I could raise my game to such level. And I was so satisfied even in the loss. I'm happy to share with you that I lost the game, but it brought the best out of me. The earlier two matches I played were not that challenging. I sailed through to the semifinals. No big deal. So when the world is challenging, when the opposition is strong, doesn't it bring the best out of you? Isn't that a sportsman spirit? Don't you need to be sportive? In fact, if you take that same sportive spirit to life, look at life, if it is a challenge, you will use the rough situations to sharpen yourself. Now, even as simple an exercise, you do manicure and pedicure, no? You cut your nails and you use to file them. Even your filer, is it not rough, sir? If the filer is smooth, would you be able to file your nails? No. So everything, if the world is challenging, you will find that it's an opportunity for you to grow. In fact, there's a beautiful saying. Please see this. It says, Providence has hidden a charm in difficult undertakings. So in anything that is difficult or challenging, Providence has hidden a charm in it, he says. Now, we don't see the play of Providence, but Providence has hidden a charm in difficult undertakings, which is appreciated only by those who dare to grapple them. Like a sportsman would never say, oh, if it's a tough opponent, I'll walk over. No walk over. If he's tough, let me fight the game. If I'm able to handle my emotions, if I'm able to play that game well, there's every chance I'll win the game, isn't it? You don't accept a defeat until you're defeated. So there's a charm. Like a beautiful rose has got thorns. You must know how to avoid the thorns and pluck the rose. So all what I'm saying is, do not complain if the world is tough. Do not complain if the world is challenging. If the situations are demanding, don't complain. I'm always reminded by this. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. It sees how much metal, it tells how much metal you have within you. If the challenge is there, it'll bring the best out of you. And it's so true. To even conclude this thought with this, it says, our strength often increases in proportion to the obstacles imposed on it. Our strength often increases in proportion to the obstacles imposed on it. If I have to strengthen my muscles, don't I need to add more weight to strengthen my muscles? The more the weight, the stronger I get. So the wisdom teaches us that it helps you to make stepping stones out of stumbling blocks. It could be a stumbling block, but I'll make it a stepping stone and go around it, go over it. So if you have the capacity to establish right contact, the world will bring the best out of you. You will not complain that the world is challenging, the world is demanding. But if you don't have this perspective, then you're in trouble. So just quickly recap what I've said. The second half, I said that the joy and sorrow does not reside in the world. It is a state of your mind. It all boils down to what you relate. It's not what you relate, but how you relate to it. And if you are able to relate well, it does not have any mental accidents. In order to create that harmony with the world, you must be able to have the right assessment. And everything in life has a unique nature, a quality, a USP. You should learn to assess so that you establish right contact. And the opposite of assessment is your own expectations. You throw what you want the world to fit into your mental framework. The world is not going to fit into your framework. You have to see what the world doesn't fit into it. In fact, there's a beautiful Japanese saying. It says, measure twice, but cut once. Before you cut a piece of cloth, you make sure you've measured it twice. Because once you cut it, you had it. You're done with it. So there's a Japanese saying, you measure twice, but you only cut once. So you must learn to assess and adapt. And once you're able to assess, once you're able to adapt with the world, you will be able to draw the best out of the situations and circumstances. You would not complain that the world is challenging, the world is demanding. Problems are mere opportunities with thorns in them. If you look at a problem as an opportunity for me to grow, so the wisdom gives you the capacity to deal with what life throws at you. It prepares you. In fact, wisdom is no better preparation to life. One who has this wisdom would be able to look at life with this perspective, would be able to look at life optimistically, which creates that harmony within. At the same time, you look forward to facing challenges. So in this session, we dealt with that the wisdom is a manual. It talks about, it gives the various laws which govern life. We spoke about how to test yourself. What's the quality of your life? We said how you must learn to insure yourself from the vicissitudes. Dukkeshva anudvignamanaha, sukheshu vigataspruha, vitaraga bhayakrodaha, sthidadi muniruchyate. Who is a man of wisdom? One who is able to deal with the vicissitudes. And then we learn about the nature of the world, that the joy and sorrow reside within you, not in the world. You must learn to develop that right relationship. For that, assessment is the key. And then you will find every situation draws the best out of you. So I would conclude with these thoughts. And if there anything that you wish to ask, I'll be happy to clarify. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Vinayji. That was a wonderful elucidation, and it flowed. As you said, I think you really sailed us through today's session, and I'm really looking forward to the upcoming sessions as well. I can see Aparavji's hand raised, so I would like to request him to go ahead and pose his question.
Guruji, managing the expectations is very important for one, so that he will not get disappointed, and in every action he will be probably successful or whatever it is. And the assessment is key to managing the expectation. That's what I understood. So the thing is, once we say the assessment, what are the key ingredients to do carry out the assessment? That is my question.
What are the key ingredients to carry out the assessment? In fact, I would actually take this in the next section. The first thing I would talk of it, but since you clarified it, I will enunciate here. So, what is it that operates on expectations? It is the mind that throws its expectations. When you operate on your own mind, your mind is that which throws various demands. If you look at the chart here, your mind is that which is your irrational aspect of your personality. So when you're irrational, you're indiscriminate, you operate on your feelings and emotions. You're projecting your expectations onto the world. But when you become rational, when you start using your buddhi or intellect, which is endowed with wisdom, wisdom is that which translates itself as intellect. And when you have that clarity of thought, when you're rational, when you take stock and assessment, when you're discriminate, then that is when you start assessing things. So the question is whether you're operating on your emotions and mind, or are you operating on your intellect and reason? This is the quintessential difference how you are dealing with. And wisdom distills itself into the intellect, giving you the clarity of thought.
Yes, Guruji, I understand. But here, when we are trying to deal with any relation, probably a person, so how would I know that the person is cunning or the person is going to help me? So how do I manage the expectation from a particular person whom I'm working with? You said that I should have understanding of who my manager is, understanding of what kind of persons or what kind of colleagues I'm dealing with. Similarly, how would I actually carry out an assessment of the human beings whom I am dealing with?
How is by evaluating them, by constantly looking at their actions, by being observant, by being mindful, by taking a stock. So if you look back into your own experiences about a person, what has been my past 10 experiences? Then you form a particular graph or a particular image of that person. This is what that person is. Simple, let's like 10 times if we both have met for a meeting, and 8 out of 10 times you have landed up late, your presentation has been incomplete, short of my expectation, or you find I am short of your expectation and I have never come on time. What is the image you would form of me? Oh, Guruji always says that he'll come for a meeting, but he's never on time. And he never comes prepared with the meetings, but he sets up meetings. So after your experiences with me, you are able to form a conclusion, giving the benefit of doubt, still that, oh, if it is Guruji, I'll have to remind him that he better be on time. And there's a possibility he may not come with an agenda or he is not prepared. Out of your own experiences, isn't it? So you have to come to rationalize your expectations, because you have to deal with me or I have to deal with you. I have no choice but to live with you. If it's your partner, you must live with you must know what your partner is, what our strengths are, what's our weaknesses, what's our negativities, what's our positivities, and not complain about it and accept it. This is what my wife is. Or this is what my manager is. This is how my government is. You can say my government is corrupt or my government is very transparent. Then you don't complain. So you come to a conclusion after a very dynamic and a constant evaluation of what you're dealing with. It's not static, because I'm also constantly changing. You are changing. The weather is changing. The government is changing. And you must be able to re-evaluate. Like I said, the weather in the desert in the morning is scorching heat. In the night is biting cold. You must adapt to the same desert with contrasting weathers. So give yourself that little buffer that your guru also can surprise you at times. He will come on time. At the same time, he will come with full agenda, full preparation. So my guru also can surprise me. He's not all the time late, not all the time ill-prepared. Don't be surprised. Because 8 out of 10, he is like that. So that 9 and 10, he is well prepared, isn't it?
Thank you very much, Guruji.
Right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Vinayji, I think it's time. So if we could conclude the session and meet again this evening at 5 p.m. and continue our
Right.
study.
We can conclude with a prayer, please.
Sure.
Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Thank you, Vinayji.
Thank you.
Viewers, requesting all of you to join us again for the evening session at 5 p.m.